Untitled Davidson. I have Moses Macias with me. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
He's an author, and so he has a different kind of story here. He was born with some disabilities, and he's going to share. It's not very common that people write books about their disabilities, and he was actually decided to write the book because he found a lot of books were written from a loved one or from a doctor's point of view, and he actually considered having a ghostwriter write it, but then he decided that he was going to take it into his own hands and write the book himself. And so just reading the back, I'm really excited. He's going to share what conditions he had and how he got through the situation that he's in, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say about this. This sounds like a great book. How do you want to start talking about it?
Well, I guess I'll talk about why I wrote the book. I was born with 3 conditions with spina bifida, which is the back is split open.
Okay.
And so when I was born, my back was split open, there's blood coming out, and then you can see my spinal cord dangling, and you can see like a little bit more organs or my back muscle.
Okay.
And then I was born with cleft lip, which is the splitting of the lip where you can see my scars.
Okay.
And then I was born with hydrocephalus, which was fluid in the brain. And so I don't know if you've seen kids with their heads are very enlarged.
Okay.
Well, they have that because the fluid was built up in the brain. So I had that. So I was born with all 3 conditions. Normally you're born with 1, maybe 2, but I was unfortunate to be born with all 3. And so I was born in that situation. I was supposed to die the day I was born, and then I ended up going to the hospital emergency surgery after I was born, and they had me in an incubator for about 18 days before my mom was finally able to hold me and take me home and all these situations.
That must have been so hard for her.
Yeah, until this day, she struggles with it and, separation issues. So,
yes.
so I always have to make sure, Mom, I'm going to the store, Mom, I'm going to this place, because
yes.
it kind of brings back memories of back when I was a child. That's not something you get over.
No, definitely
it stays
not.
with you. And so I had about 19 surgeries in my life. That give or take, I lost count after a while, but
right.
But every count, I was like about 19 surgeries. I do 6 procedures a day on myself just to sustain my life.
Okay.
And so, through all my life, I've had constructive surgery. I reconstructed my face. I don't know if you can really tell or not, but
no.
They fixed my nose. They reconstructed my nose. They did my lip. They did the muscle right here, the damage, and they did my teeth. I had like years of braces, and they basically reconstructed my face. And the only one surgery I didn't do for my face was the jaw surgery. I just didn't feel like I really needed it at the time.
Oh my gosh.
And I just had too many surgeries at the time. I was like, I'm not going to spend 9 weeks not eating and just for my jaw to be slightly different, So I was like, I got the nose one done because it was helping my breathing. Also for exercise, it allowed me to exercise better. And just for, I wanted to be more confident in the way I look. And so I had surgery on that, and I had surgery on my back and then my hips and my legs, all because of the spina bifida. So, and then 3 brain surgeries for my hydrocephalus, and then some ear surgeries and a couple other surgeries for my face reconstruction. So I won't go deaf and I won't go blind, and all these different things that come about when you have multiple severe conditions.
Wow.
And so I spent my first 21 years of life in and out of the hospital, and I was just going through all these surgery after surgery, procedure after procedure. I've gone through dozens of procedures in a day, and now I'm at a good spot where I'm just obtaining my life. I'm able to do 6 procedures a day, and I'm fine. And they're not really major procedures, but they're just medical procedures I have to go through. And every now and then I have to go through a bigger one.
Okay.
But it's just, I'm really doing a really good job right now of just maintaining my life. And so I wrote a book about my 21 years in the hospital, in and out, because I felt like I needed to tell somebody about it, because I never had the older person to tell me, this is what you're going to go through in life,
mm-hmm.
and this is how you deal with it. I've always had people you can say who are normal and say, you'll be all right, but how can you tell me that if you don't know what it's like to not walk?
Yeah.
How can you tell me, you'll graduate from college when you never had brain surgery?
Yeah.
I would have to have brain surgery and then be back next week and still try to pass my classes and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
And so it was very difficult. So how are you going to tell me all these things when you never gone through it yourself?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they meant well and intense and well, but it's just like they didn't know how to read the room. They didn't know how to look at the situation. Like, no, it's easy to say when you never gone through that,
mm-hmm.
when you never haven't even had a surgery at all in your life, let alone a medical procedure or these different things. So I want to be there for somebody in the future, whether it be 10 years from now, 100 years from now, whenever I'm gone, they can read my book and they can say, there's somebody that went through it like I did, and they made it out. And so through all this stuff, I found my faith in God, and that's how I became a born again Christian. And so what their journey they find will be, that'll be theirs, but they go read from somebody that's been there, not from a doctor that's analyzing it from a medical perspective,
Mm-hmm.
not a ghostwriter that's writing it but leaving certain things out and kind of manipulating it to the way they kind of see fit, but somebody that's just going to give it to you as it is raw and just telling you straight up this is how it was.
Yes.
It sucked, it was not
Yeah.
that good, but it was also a blessing because then I wouldn't be able to help as many people as I could now.
So you're leaving your legacy.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Is just because I haven't really met too many people that were in my situation that are even still alive to this day.
Well, and especially if you had 3 things going on, and like you said, some people might have 1, might have 2, but
Mhm.
never really 3. And you've gotten through all of these. And so when you were in school, you had some bullying going on.
Yeah, well, naturally you look different, so people are gonna pick on you
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. I would have people try to trip me because of the way I walked.
Did you say threaten you?
trip me?
Oh, trip you.
Oh, yeah, and then you get people that try to threaten you and things like that.
Oh my gosh.
And just try to be mean to you, and then but through all that, I learned to treat ignorant moments with educational moments. So
Mhm.
some of these same people end up becoming my good friends. And
Yes.
so the best way is not really just to counsel people or to automatically, say, dismiss them. It's like, no, you want to change their ways so that way that when they run into another disabled person, they treat them nicely.
Yes.
And till this day, I've been doing that, best I can. Sometimes I got in fist fights, sometimes I got, verbal fights, and I wish I could handle it differently. And for those who are in that situation right now, be the bigger person, educate them about your condition. And that way when they meet other people with that conditions, they'll treat them better. Because sometimes they make fun of them because they don't know anything.
Yeah.
They just don't understand what's going on. And as internet these days is able to expose people a lot of things, you see the world become a better place today.
Yes.
Because people don't stare at me like they used to.
That's what I was going to ask. Did you have a lot of people stare?
Yeah, a lot of adults stare at me and just, they just laugh at me and stuff like that and things of that situation, especially in the 90s. It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But lately, people have been like, oh, you have spina bifida, oh, you have this, or they'll bring up a loved one that has a condition,
Okay.
or somebody that they saw on the internet has a condition, and they're like, oh, you're just like that person. I go, yeah. And I, tell them what I have, and it's an educational moment.
Okay.
So it's a moment of learning, and so a lot of times it's not really to fight fire with fire. It's just you want to cool them off, throw some water in that fire, and educate them. Say, no, this is what I have, and this and that. So there's nothing but to make fun of you. You know better now.
Oh, right.
So,
Right.
And so
yeah.
that's what I've now. That's one thing I want to preach now is like, hey, don't bully people back, or don't try to do these things. We're obviously gonna have our moments where we're gonna slip up, but it's one of those things like change your mindset. Educate people
Mm-hmm.
because it's easy to get hurt and get upset about what people tell you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's one of those things you have to become stronger, because things are not gonna necessarily get easier. But if you become stronger, you can handle it better. So it's just one of those things where I learned to educate people.
That would be hard at times to be the bigger person.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's 100% you're gonna do that. There's some moments where you're gonna lash out. There's some moments where
Mhm.
you're gonna not be the bigger person,
Yeah.
but you still gotta get back up and just start all over. I messed up, should have done better. Make it right with that person if you can.
Yeah.
If they start it. And it's really difficult because even with doctors I've had that situation with, because not every doctor is a good doctor, especially
Yeah.
back in the old days. Like they tried to get rid of me to a white family when I was younger.
What?
Yeah, they said the old Mexicans can't take care of their kids that are disabled, so they try to get me adopted to a white family. And my mom yelled at the doctor and left, because I was like, that's not right.
Oh, your
like-
poor mom.
Yeah, so she went through all of that stuff the first couple of years having to deal with that, and people telling you like these like ancient myths and stuff like that, like, oh, it's because you look at a full moon, or because you're cursed, or you get all these crazy things when you're disabled that people don't realize that like your birth is not considered a blessing, it's considered a mistake, and you're considered a
No.
curse, and you're considered all these things.
Right.
So I want to just destroy that stigmatism and educate people, especially like in third world countries and other places. Man, it's looked down upon. That's why
Right.
that's why I very appreciate that I was born in America.
Right.
Particularly in California, where I can get my medical needs met, because there's some areas where till adulthood these people still don't have
The
the
surgeries.
and things like that. And I'm very fortunate to walk, where I wasn't going to be able to walk, they said, and I wasn't able to talk, and death, and as well as like other little problems that were going to come. But now I'm able to speak, talk, and do all these different things, walk, and also able to get an education, and just do all these things in my life that I didn't think I was going to be able to do, and that they said I wasn't going to be able to do. And here I am now, 32 years later, I'm able to be on things like this, and just let people know that it's not the end of the world. If your son or daughter or you have been diagnosed with something, it it could just be the beginning of a new journey.
Yes.
And so I would never saw me as an author. Didn't see that coming, but here I am, writing books and getting ready to write some more and things
Yeah.
like that. And about my medical experience, about my faith in God, about things like that, and putting it together and be able to go places to speak and tell them, give preach about certain topics of what I've gone through.
And so, there was a point in time where suicide was kind of on your plate. You struggled with that. Was that at what point in time was that an issue?
That was about when I was about 8 when it started becoming an issue.
Okay.
Like I got tired of being called ugly, so
Aww.
I don't know if you can see it, but I have some scars right here where I
Yeah.
got a pin and I stabbed myself.
Aww.
Because well, you're gonna call me monster, I was gonna look like it then. That's what was
Aw.
my mindset as a kid. So I dealt with like depression and suicide from that young age, and I just never really tried it until I was 18 when I tried it, and that's when I had an experience with God, and I
Okay,
and I
that's
get-
what I was going to ask. When were you able to bring your faith into the picture?
yeah, when I was 18, I tried to commit suicide. I had an intervention from God, and I just had a change of heart, and I was like, I'm going to continue living, and I'm going to become stronger. I'm going to start educating people. I'm going to start changing the world better, and not be overcome by my disabilities, but I'm going to overcome them. And then when I pass away, but it's going to be on, not because I quit, but because I gave everything I had. And so I was dealing with drug addiction and just depression, and it was really, for my teenage years, it was really upsetting and really dealing with all that, and to deal with the drug addiction and deal with the depression, and just constantly having surgery after surgery, medical procedure, and being made fun of, and also just having so many medical failures that you get frustrated, you want to quit.
Yeah.
Because you want to already get back to your life, but you can't because you have to have another surgery because some other medical thing happened, and so it was very frustrating. So it kind of led me to want to commit suicide, and I'm glad I didn't do it. And if you're watching this and you're hearing this, and you want to think about committing suicide, don't do it.
Yeah.
Life's too precious.
Life is too precious, and there's help out there, and sometimes you just feel so alone.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's always help out there, and so you should be so proud of yourself, because you just talked about health conditions, you just talked about your disabilities, you just talked about drug addiction issues, and you just talked about depression, and it sounds like you've been able to overcome like all of that. And I mean, and then you've got this beautiful, well, it's on the screen actually.
Yeah.
You've got this beautiful book you've written. And you said you're working on more?
Yeah, I want to just talk about, because I went in the ministry after when I was like 21. I went to really in the ministry full time and spent about 10 years in ministry. There's a lot of things I learned, and going through the ministry as a disabled person is not the same thing as if you're able-bodied. You're able-bodied, you can go on through all these things, and when you're disabled, you want to do all these things, but you necessarily can't. But you have to be smart about it and do it in a different way, and then you'll realize that you got more of an impact than you think.
Yes.
And so I write about that, saying these are the things I dealt with, the frustrations that I dealt with. But like for example, I want to be there all the time, helping all the time in the food ministry, helping all the time in these things, but realizing, hey, you also got to take care of your body, otherwise you're no good to people. So I've learned to, in my book I write, in my second book I write, you know what, give what you can, don't go beyond that, and then when you're feeling good up to it, continue doing it, and over time it'll build up. And next you've helped so many people in life and you never realize it.
Yes.
And there's just other ways to help people.
And do you feel like at times that people are drawn to you? Because like for me, like I feel like I'm drawn to people with disabilities because I feel like they're more compassionate, and they've been through so much that I feel like my connection with them is going to be stronger. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I've had that before where people...
You haven't?
No, I have. Where
Okay.
people confide in me, like people I just met, they confide in me, and it's like I'm easier to talk to or to be around with. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe because of the stuff we've gone through. So when like anything you tell me you've gone through is probably nothing compared to what I've seen and seen in the hospital or gone through myself. So I'm understanding, compassionate about it, and so like you're always serious too. You take people serious more often because you know what it's like to not be taken serious and not to be heard. So when somebody talks to you, you listen.
Yeah.
And so people have drawn to me, and I always thought it was strange. I just thought that was kind of odd. And when I talk to other disabled, they have the same experience. It's like, yeah, people just come and talk to me, and it's kind of, you could say it's a gift, from God. It's just one of those things that it comes with going through a lot. You go through a lot of things, and then as a result, certain times people relate to you. Sometimes people go to you when they can't go to anybody else because they realize, what, this person's gone through a lot. Let me see what they had to say.
Yes. And so how has this affected your mother?
Well, she, like I said earlier on, she was traumatized with the things that happened to her, but then she's also, her faith has gone stronger,
Oh, that's great.
And then she's also, everywhere we go, I always was embarrassed of this when I was younger, but she would always carry pictures of me of before and after for my cleft lip.
Oh, yeah.
And she would talk to people and say, you know what? I'll be sitting in the waiting room and she'd go to me, don't feel sad, because they realize their son's big diagnosis or something. She goes, this is my son when he was born, and this is him now, and look at him, and, and they would encourage people. At the time, I didn't get it,
Right.
But I didn't realize she was encouraging people throughout my whole life and helping, who knows how many people. And the same thing with my brothers and sisters, My brothers and sisters have talked to disabled people. Well, because they have a disabled brother, they know how to talk to them. So
yes.
Whereas everybody will treat them, maybe different, or just, maybe however they would treat them, maybe they pick on them. They would protect them or defend them, or they would talk to him like they were talking to me, because to them, they couldn't see the disability. They saw them for them as who they were.
Yes.
And so it's really affected my family. They have more compassion and, more love. My mom and dad have always helped other people. It really helped them in the ministry and in the church. They're really appreciative of what they have, what they've gone through. So all families really appreciate their health and everything that they have, and and they love other people who are disabled. They're talking to them, and they can say, hey, yeah, my brother has that. And they have a big conversation, about it, and then they'll tell me like weeks later, months later, oh yeah, I talked to so and so that was disabled, and then say they heard your story and encourage them. They start crying and things like that, because they know what it's like. They've seen the behind the scenes.
And you had said that your mom wasn't able to touch you for how many days?
About 18 days.
18 days.
So she was just kind of stuck in the hospital, not knowing what's gonna happen.
Yes.
And that's kind of, I can only imagine what that's like,
Yeah,
and
that would be so
I never
hard.
had a child, so I wouldn't. I can only imagine, how scary that would have to be, and
Yes.
the stress. And then they always told that, he's gonna live not past 3 months or 5 months or 10 years. Giving her these different things, and that's something you want to hear about your child.
No.
You want to see your child get married. You want to see him graduate high school and college. You want to have grandchildren.
Yes.
And then so that could have easily been robbed from her, but she kept the faith and just like, what, she prayed every day and just like,
right.
I'm not gonna let this defeat me. And as a result, she's a strong woman of God and her faith, and so well as my dad and my brothers and sisters. And so even when they're struggling, they think about the situations that I've gone through and how they gone through it with me, and and it's
what
just
all you've conquered.
Yeah, and so it's just they realize, they kind of snap out of their maybe what they're going through and say, what, we can get through this.
Yes.
And so same thing with everybody. When you're in the storm, it feels, and you're all wet, it feels like difficult, but that storm's gonna end at some point.
Right.
It's gonna pass over you. You're gonna be in the eye of the storm, but then it's gonna go away. You just hold on, and you'll be fine.
Yes.
And it's a very difficult thing to do. As somebody that's gone through that, experienced racism in the hospital, having done with the insurance, having to deal with all these
Oh my gosh, the
doctors
insurance, yeah.
Yeah, the insurance is just, it can be good or bad. You just don't know.
Yeah.
And it's just, anybody that's gone through it knows that sometimes they'll cover you and sometimes they won't. And it's just, it could be over something silly.
Right.
It could be something that you could have had that surgery years ago, but over some technicality or something like that, they won't give it to you, and there you are suffering for an extra so many years when you could have had a quick procedure, quick
Right.
surgery, and it could have
Right.
been
Until
done.
you get it all worked out.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just, it's frustrating, and it's just encourage people to stay in there, hang out, and seek help where they can. From now we have the internet, so you can get help from people that
Right.
that gone through it.
Yes,
And
definitely.
get in contact with people. Like, I've learned things making my YouTube channel about disabilities and stuff like that. I've learned things from other disabled that I would never have known,
Yes.
and it's really helped me.
Did you say you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, a YouTube channel.
Okay, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so on my YouTube channel, it's just Moses Macias. You just search me up and you should be able to see my picture. And I just talk about different situations about growing up disabled.
Okay.
And it's mainly tailored towards people who are disabled, but anybody can watch it, really. If that's one thing you want to listen to and hear about. And so I'll discuss like any kind of issue that, like bullying. I'll discuss COVID-19, how to handle that.
Okay.
And how just during certain situations that you're gonna find yourself medically that you probably not get from other people. obviously I'm not a doctor, not an expert, but I'm just telling you my experience of what I've gone through.
Yes.
And just mainly I talk about issues.
Okay.
And that I like to tackle down. So I like to tackle down certain issues that like you're gonna go through,
Yeah.
like drug addiction and things like that.
Mhm.
You know, and how to be careful when you take painkillers. You know, only take it when you have to, because
Mhm.
you can get addicted to those painkillers real easily.
Mhm.
You know, early on they were giving us morphine, real like it was candy,
Yeah.
and they were just giving us things like that. And not only that, if you're the parent of a disabled child, you can see these signs and catch them before
Right.
you know they happen. You know, I talk about these things in my book, but my YouTube channel kind of give a different experience. You know, it's more like a interview type of way. You know, you can, and I talk about it in my book, but it's just written form. You know, so it's like
Yeah.
a longer form. I can get a little more detailed about it and just talk about it a different way. So I wanted to now people see that stuff and not just have to buy my book, but they can also see it on my YouTube channel where it's free, and they can also email me, message me, or whatever, and I can
Yes.
talk to them about it. You know, just different things to get in contact with me.
What are you most proud of in your book?
Opening it up and just saying, like right here, I open it up and I see it says right here, it goes copyrighted 2019 by Moses Macias. It's got
Mhm.
my name right there and I own it. I
Yes.
own the rights to my book.
That's great.
And the fact that I went through all this with very little help, you know, I have help from my uncle who showed me these lists of publishers, but the fact that I went through all of that as an individual and grew so much from that and got it done. You know, I didn't get no help or really anything like that. It was just, you know, it was a journey that I had to travel by myself. You know, I got some direction where to go to, but from there I was all by myself. And, you know, I just thank God that He was with me through all the whole thing. You know, that's why it's titled Always With Me, you know, because
Mhm.
despite everything I went through in life, God has always been with me. Through
That's
the
great.
good, through the good and the bad, you know.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I'm just sit there and I have like the picture of it on my room, and I just look at it every now and then and I smile at the poster of the cover of my book,
Mhm.
because you know I went through that and I got it accomplished. You know, not too many people say that they wrote a book and became an author,
Yeah.
and and on top of everything I went through in life, just still come on top and do all that. So it's just the fact that I can just sit there and look at it and say, you know, I did this and I completed it, and
Yes.
it wasn't just something that I wrote down and I left it, or it wasn't just something that I thought about it, talked about it. I actually went through the whole process. As frustrating and as hard as it can be, you know, the
Mhm.
fact that I just went through it and completed it, and it's just something pretty amazing that I never thought in a million years I'd be an author or a public speaker, you know,
Yes.
and just speak about the issues about my life and just do all these different things. You know, it's carried me a long way, and I would never, you know, a few years ago I just never thought I'd be in this position. So you know, it's very, very proud that I got it done,
That's great.
and
Well, I'd love to have you come back.
I would like that too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we're going to take a commercial and we'll be right back.